First and foremost, my sincere gratitude to the organizers and particularly to General Raina for reaching out to me for this forum. This morning when General Upadhyay took to stage, he mentioned that it's a great thing to be able to go first at a forum like this, and I couldn't agree more because it allows you to set the context. Having said that, and while being in the company of stalwarts and my esteemed co-panelists, it is both a challenge as well as an opportunity to bring up the rear of the day one of this conference. Challenge for obvious reasons and opportunity since everyone has basically shared so many insights. They've helped distill down the context of the conference. They've helped polish up the narrative. And what that leaves me to do is firstly, to keep this concise because we are heading towards the end of the day. And secondly, to turn this into a value proposition for all of us. So having said that, I will set the tone very briefly for what I'm about to speak. And I will lead you through not just what I have on slides, but in a very real world sense in how ecosystems can be built from the ground up. So let me start. Before I get into setting the context, just want to know who are our audience today. So are all of you from the drone industry? Just a show of hands. Yes, drone industry. Just a few. What about the others? Startups? How many startups in the house? Great. Anyone from academia? Great, ma'am. Thank you. Great. Wonderful. Anyone from MSMEs? Any MSMEs, large industries? Great, sir. Thank you. So safe to say that we have a very interesting mix of people and just the kind of audience that I would want to have. In fact, just the kind of stakeholders that I work with on a regular basis. So a quick brief about what I do. I essentially lead a very young and an upcoming think tank. We deal mostly in emerging tech and deep technologies. And in a very thought out manner, in a very decided fashion, we work with all stakeholders to make sure that technology goes from inception to the use cases. So we work concurrently with the government, we work with the industry, with the academia, and with the end user to make sure that technology moves through all these domains, finally going to an application stage where the real benefits are then realized. And right from the outset, we've been focused on making sure that we take a dual use approach. While we are in the company of multiple prolific military veterans here, but one has to bring out this point, so I'm doing so, that just working for defense in the very early stages may actually have you discouraged. And this is not because the armed forces are doing anything wrong. That's how complex the system is, though it is improving. So right at the outset, I would suggest to those building solutions and building technology, especially as startups, especially as young innovators, please be patient, and additionally, please build for the civilian domain as well. There are amazing opportunities to build for the civilian domains, which I'll highlight later on in my presentation. Coming back to the ecosystem part, when I decided to start this think tank with the help of my co-founders as well as my well-wishers, one of my earliest advisors, a good friend and someone who works closely with me in this, he just told me one thing, and this guy comes from an amazing level of expertise, having worked with the top think tanks of the nation. He said, Varun, let's not just make another think tank. Let's turn this into a think and a do tank. Let's make things actionable from day one. As much as we also are engaged on a regular basis in the typical think tanking charter, one of the things we have tried to do is to build and launch very actionable initiatives right from the very beginning. And that is where we came into the understanding that why building ecosystems is really important, because that's really the only sustainable way for all of us, particularly in the domain of technology, to take things ahead and to make them feasible, to make them profitable, and ultimately, and I would say most importantly, contribute all of this in nation building. So, what does an ecosystem like this actually require? I'll take things down right to the grassroots, granular levels. At the very outset, we have academia, we have the industry, and for the context that I'm talking about, the industry I'm speaking of will be startups and MSMEs. I'm not speaking about large industries, simply because what I'm explaining is more to do with granular level work. Having had both of these in, we have to map in the end user as early as possible, because that's where the real insights come from in how technologies shape up and how they finally refine from the early levels. To encompass all of this, we have the government, because the government is the one which sets the policy, executes the policy, and also refines the policy. And nothing can work without policies in place. It is actually encouraging to see the current government working and revising policies to make them more flexible, to make them more adaptable. Ease of doing business is very consciously being looked at. There are hurdles, no doubt. I am an early stage entrepreneur as well, and I face these challenges on a day-to-day basis. But we are definitely looking at a bright future. So coming back to the ecosystems part, what do we need to do to build these ecosystems? We have to look at building clusters, and clusters basically make sure that these different stakeholder groups are being utilized right from the start. Let me now talk about the technology part of this. Uh, in fact, I was having a conversation with General Indrabalan earlier, and what we realized is that the current frameworks in how technologies are evaluated and how they are picked up, they need a refresh, they need a change. Luckily, Sir mentioned in his presentation two of the new frameworks he's working on currently and in bringing them to life. And I have been working on something very similar with my team, where we have, in a very focused way, we've been identifying stakeholders, we've been building the synergies, and by way of that, we have been nurturing these new ecosystems in the form of clusters, which work across domains in an interdisciplinary fashion and with an interconnectedness in place. So one of the things which I'm just reiterating, because General Indrabalan has already covered this, that we have to bring focus to TRL levels at a very early stage. And TRL levels should be, in fact, the defining factor. I had this discussion this morning with Manish ji as well. Manish ji and I, coincidentally, we have been working closely in many of these ecosystems. So TRL levels, which in conjunction with MRL levels, manufacturing readiness levels, have to be looked at. And this is how I would encourage innovators and startups to look at building new technologies which go into these new platforms. Please don't copy what is already out there. I think we are beyond that point already, especially in the drones domain. For better or worse, in wake of Op Sindoor, there has been a lot of reshuffle as well as an upheaval in the drone industry. But let's look at the positives out of that. That we now finally are moving towards a more sovereign approach to our systems, to our components, to our ground up innovation. So this is where the ecosystem really has a part to play. And this is where I'll bring focus to what academia can do and what academia should be doing. While I do so, this is a slide where you can see the journey so far, small yet significant steps. So everything I've told you till this point forward, this slide actually culminates all of that for my ecosystem, or the ecosystem which I have been very fortunately involved with. And this is a quick rundown. I'll explain what this is, but a quick context first. These 4 initiatives mentioned here, because we are currently based in Maharashtra, one half of my initiative runs from Maharashtra. So I have consciously picked out these 4 to explain all that I have said so far and how this has already been brought into the real world and how we are moving ahead from here. So right at the beginning, you will see in 2023, I have mentioned the IAI Innovation Center collaborations in India. For those who may not be aware, IAI, when I say IAI, that is Israeli Aerospace Industries. So it's one of the leading aerospace companies, defense companies in the world. And in 2023, we got the opportunity to interact with one of their teams, which leads their innovation center. And those talks led us to a point where they got really interested, sir, in bringing over a delegation for a few days to both Mumbai and Pune. This was in January 23. And that allowed us to showcase 30 companies, a combination of startups as well as MSMEs, who are working very deeply in the defense and aerospace domains. We had these consultations over the next few days, and this led to formation of a few different IAI nodal points in India, one of which is handled by us. And in a very heartening manner, 2 of those IAI nodal points exist within Maharashtra, in fact, within the Pune-Mumbai region. This particular initiative, when launched in Jan 23, allowed us to present our capabilities as a nation to one of the stalwarts in the world, which is Israel, sir. And they took note of the fact that how amazing our ground level innovations were. This placed the companies from India, from here, from Mumbai, from Pune, from Maharashtra, to start having talks and to start having visits at IAI's Innovation Center in Israel. And approximately a year to 18 months down the line, IAI formally launched the Innovation Challenge in India, which is currently underway. I think the first leg, in fact, has already identified the new tech that is going to be jointly developed by Indian companies and the IAI Innovation Center. And the best part about this is that the IPs will be jointly held between us and Israel. So these are the kinds of initiatives that our startups can be a part of and they need to look forward to. Moving on, this one is very close to my heart, and it's an honor and a privilege to be on the same panel as General AK for this one. This is the Atamnirbhar Center of Excellence in Pune. During his talk, Sir mentioned that he set up an academia industry interface with the army in Pune during his time. And I was one of the very fortunate people to, in fact, build on to this with, of course, his support and the support of the Army Southern Command. And we institutionalized this approach into the Atamnirbhar Center of Excellence Pune in January 2024, about a year down from the IAI initiative. This, in fact, remains to date a flagship model, because this involves the Army Southern Command directly as the end user. We have 2 academia participants in this, the Army Institute of Technology and the Indian Institute of Science and Research. Along with that, we have Maratha Chamber of Commerce as our industry partner, as the industry association. And finally, my think tank, SRGF, to help build everything together and to help synergize between all stakeholders. So this was something we launched while Sir was there. We institutionalized it. And it gives me great privilege, sir, to let you know that one of our foremost milestones as a part of what we launched under your leadership, it has culminated into a formal track being launched with the base workshops group of the Army just 10 days back. So what we started with General A.K. Singh has now taken us and the startups and the industries in our fold to move into indigenization for not just for Southern Command, but for the Army's core of EME. And for those who are aware of what the EME does and what the base workshop group does, it's one of the phenomenal opportunities which has opened up for startups, because across the nation at 8 different places, we have 8 different areas of specializations and domains which are being handled by the core of EME. And startups across these 8 areas are now going to be in a position to work alongside EME. In fact, earlier on, it was mentioned during the day that in the wake of Op Sindoor, uh, EME now has been entrusted with the assembly, manufacturing, as well as maintenance of drones for the Army. And I was again very fortunate to be a part of some of those deliberations. And with what we have formalized just a week back with the base workshop group, even drones are now going to be a part of this initiative that is going to build onto this. So anyone here from the drone industry, please feel free to connect with us. We are currently compiling a compendium, sir, for the base workshop group, which is going to be proliferated through them to all commands and right up to the apex levels. So startups with their capabilities and with their unique propositions will get positioned right in front of the key decision makers via this initiative and this effort. Moving on to number 3. So talking about the first 2 points, I could say that these are more to do with developing and nurturing capabilities. And moving on to number 3 and 4, these are 2 of our efforts more towards capacity building. So number 3 again is a very interesting project that we launched in December last year. The very well-known Symbiosis education brand from Pune, they have a very unique vertical called as the Symbiosis Skills and Professional University. This particular wing of theirs specifically deals with 70% hands-on outcome-based and skill-based education, and not just in the form of certification or diploma programs, but full-fledged degrees in engineering, both at bachelor's and master's levels. So last year we had the opportunity of sitting with them, and the outcome was that they launched a School of Aerospace and Defense Technology, which this year in the month of June has rolled out its first BTech program in defense and aerospace technology in the country. So why is this significant? Why is this important? Not so much at this stage from an R&D perspective, but as you guys, the entrepreneurs here, as you build up your capabilities, as you scale up your operations, as you scale up your R&D, as you go more into solution building and system building, you are going to need a very specifically trained and skilled workforce, which you will want as close as possible to your areas of operation, your domains of operation. Ideally, you do not want to spend time reskilling them for a year or 2 years once they join you. And this is where this program actually comes in handy. This was launched in, after deep consultations with some of the biggest defense companies in India. So, needless to say, it is going to create a great workforce for us in the form of systems engineers who will be available not only to these big companies, sir, but eventually to startups and MSMEs as well. And it is already being encouraged that many of these students attempt to move in towards forming their own startups, towards building IPs, towards building technology from a ground up level as early as they can. And finally, moving on to number 4, this was one of our most recent establishments. Again, Ferguson College, a very well-known institution from Pune across India, particularly well-known for their sciences and their humanities programs. So it was at this one where we thought that, why don't we attempt an interdisciplinary approach within academia with an industry backing and an industry plug. And what we have done is, while the Center of Excellence we launched there is called the Geospatial Center of Excellence. So it is primarily done for geospatial applications. But the agenda with this was also to connect their sciences and humanities streams together by way of this COE, where while the sciences students can look at the core applications and the core application of the geospatial technologies that they know or they can be skilled into, we brought in humanities students into the mix to cover the policy aspects, because we felt that students at an early stage need to have exposure to policy and policy level education, and ideally to help formulate those in the next stages of their career. So this is a rundown of what actual ecosystems look like, what actual ecosystems can turn into, and what can be achieved if there's a collaborative approach. On to the final slide, what is the way forward? In fact, what I've already told you, it's not much else to do but to scale these opportunities and to scale these initiatives. Ideally, the last 4 points that I shared with you, if you think of them as clusters, all of these 4 clusters, which are coincidentally based in Pune, sir, they are now linked up with each other, and each one is covering one particular domain or the other. So there's no duplication. In fact, there's a beautiful synergy in all 4 of them, where sciences, technology, engineering, manufacturing, and policy all are being combined at an academic level, so they can in turn support first principles research and development at early academia as well as early startup stages, and moving that on to deeper research as well as moving things to MRL levels with the help of large industry, specialized MSMEs, institutions like DRDO. Manishji has been a big part of many of these initiatives for us. So, and with his help, we've been mapping DRDO into this mix in a very outcome-based fashion. So, I think keeping my promise, I've kept it concise and I've kept it value-based for all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.